Hi, this is Colin Triplett with Mint Condition Fitness in Los Gatos, specializing in fitness over 42. And today we're talking about the 7-step core power plan. And the reason I wanted to bring this to you guys today is because there is a lot of core exercise information out there. And this is just a nice, simple progression that you can use to make sure that you're working the core in the right way and building up strength over time. And really the key is that we want you to be doing things that are going to help promote some of your other activities. And so everything today is going to be focusing on controlling the core as other things move. So we want the arms to be able to move and the legs to be able to move well while keeping a stable core. So now I said the 7-step plan, but before we jump into the full-blown plan, I do want to show you one move. We can kind of think of this as the 0.5 step. This is if you have back pain or some sort of issue that means that core training maybe is not, you aren't up for that level of core training yet. Start here. So the first thing I'm going to do, the 0.5 level, is called, or we call it a knee lift, but basically just laying on your back, and you want to try to keep your core tight so that your back is flat against the ground, head's against the ground, both knees come up to a 90-degree angle. So again, I'm tightening here, and then I'm going to reach out my leg, tap my heel, and bring it back. And so I can alternate there, back and forth. But again, the key is that my core is tight, my low back is flat against the ground, and I'm not letting it. So as my leg comes up, I'm not letting my back arch. That's what you're going to want to do, so you keep it tight so that it doesn't. So that's a really great exercise if you have any type of back pain or have a history of back pain. Start there and just make sure you can do it. So that's maybe, you could also think of that as the pre-evaluation to be able to do the 7-step program. So if you're good there and you can do that, now we'll go into the next level. So step 1, actually similar to that one, but we're going to go with both legs. So again, core tight, knees bent, but now both legs come out, tap, and come back. And again, I'm not letting my low back come off the ground. If I were to do this as an exercise, I would have my head against the ground as well. So that's step 1. If you can do that, step 2 is holding a plank. So, elbows right underneath the shoulders. We want your feet and heels pushed back like this. And the key is that you do not want to set up here, right? I want to have my elbows out as far as I can, and I'm just going to hold here. And the goal is, can I hold this for at least 60 seconds? Okay, so I want my head, my back, my legs, everything in a nice straight line. So if you can hold that for 60 seconds, then you can go to the next level. So stage 3 is going to be the same thing. We're going to do a plank, holding in this position, but now we're going to add a leg lift. So I'm just going to hold for a second, hold for a second, and we're just going to go back and forth. Now if you can do that 20 times on each side, or for 60 seconds, but I like the 20 times on each side because if you're doing it with a hold, it will take you 60 seconds, so it's just an easier one to do. You don't have to time it. If you can do that, now we're going to switch it up and we're going to do an arm lift instead. And so with this one, same position, feet are going to be a little bit wider, and now I'm reaching out. And something that I want to show you, so I'm going to turn this way for it, is that when you do an arm lift, it's really important that you shift your center of gravity. You do not want to rotate. And so if I'm here and my arm comes out and I rotate, that's not good. But if I shift, that's okay. So I shift my weight. I have to shift my center of balance to be able to stay stable. But I just don't want to get into a rotation pattern. So if you can do that 20 times on each side, now we're going to make it even harder, and we're going to go arm and leg lift. Okay? So the opposite arm goes out, that's the leg that goes up. Switch, switch. Okay. So if you can do that 20 times on each side, now we're going to do something called a body saw. There's a lot of different ways you can do this, but I'm going to show you how to do it with sliders. If you're going to do sliders, you need some sort of surface that is going to slide. So we're going to put these right here, feet on them, and it's the same position as what we've been doing, the same plank position, right? I'm still here, I'm still nice and straight, but now I'm going to push back and pull up. Push back, pull up. And so the key there is that keeping core tight, keeping a nice straight line, and I want to push out until I reach about a 45-degree angle, shoulder to elbow, right? So as I'm pushing back, I'm back here, and then I'm going to pull myself up until my shoulder or my elbow is under my shoulder. So that's stage 6. Stage 7, the final stage, once you can do the body saw, and I like to see about 30 of those. If you can do 30 of those, and don't worry, you don't have to do that the first time you ever do it, but once you get 30, then we're going to go to the final stage. And for me, the final stage of this type of core training is the ab wheel. And I know there's probably a lot of you that have used an ab wheel and are like, that thing's crazy hard, how does anybody ever use it? Well, it's because it's stage 7. It's not the first thing that you do. So you build up to it, but once you can do these body saws, I guarantee that you can do an ab wheel. Now, once you get the ab wheel, you can do as many as you want, but let me just give you a few pointers on it. The key, at least for a kneeling ab wheel, you can do standing ab wheels too, but that's getting a little crazy. So for this purposes, let's do a kneeling ab wheel. Make sure that your knees, hips, and shoulders are all in a straight line, and then you go to reach out, and then come back, keep shoulders, knees, and hips all in a straight line still. So what I don't want to see is this. Right? I'm not pulling my hips back. I'm reaching out with my arms and then pulling them back underneath me, okay? So, we got 7 steps, 7 stages, plus that little bit of an assessment, or you can think of it as stage, the 0.5 stage, if you do have any back issues. But that's just a really nice progression that you can take yourself to, and gives you a few parameters that you can use to know when to move up, when to scale up to the next stage. So I hope you enjoyed that. Let us know if you have any questions, and hopefully that really helps with all of your core training. Thanks a lot.